Welcome UNLV students. This is our Shotokan Karate Studies program. So in this class, or in this fitness program, what we're going to be learning is basically Shotokan Karate. So I'm going to take you guys through a beginner class, an advanced class, and an intermediate class. And I'll do 3 videos a week pretty much, so there'll always be one beginner's class, one intermediate class, and one advanced class. Today's class is a beginner class, so we're going to talk about things like exactly what you would do in a brick and mortar dojo. We're going over a stance, we're going to go over how to make a fist and your first type of punch, and we're going over your first block. So those are the 3 things that I want to get through today in the 1 hour that we have. Typically, your class would be about 45 minutes to an hour, but this could run much longer. So even though this is a beginner class and the things I'm going to go over, I would ask you to continue to practice several times. So beyond what you're seeing here in this video, you could take each individual thing, like the stance, and go through and really focus on that for a complete hour. You could go through the punch that we're going to learn today and really focus on that for an hour. Same thing with the block. So I'm also going to try to go over as much as I can with the history of Shotokan, why we do the things that we do, things like that. I want to get into the nuances and to the minutia of Shotokan Karate as best I can. So that being said, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Justin. I am a 2nd degree black belt in Shotokan Karate, and I'm an instructor. I do have my own dojo, but I am also working with UNLV as a fitness instructor, and I teach some classes there on anything from regular fitness, strength training, core and hit, as well as some martial arts and kickboxing classes. So what I'm wearing today is a gi. This is a traditional karate uniform. Typically you would have white pants and a white top. Once you get into more advanced levels, brown belts and above, you can switch to a black or a darker colored pant part of the gi. But typically if you were to purchase a gi, it's going to come with white top and a white bottom. So the pants and the top would just be one solid color. Your belts, those are going to vary. But typically, if you're looking at a traditional Shotokan Karate program, the belts, I don't know if you can see it very well, are stacked up right there. Those are all the belts that I've earned as I've gone through the ranks. You're going to start with the yellow belt, which signifies a new beginning. As you go up and you do some assignments, so there would be assignments along the way with your belts. As you complete each assignment, you'll get a stripe on your belt. This also signifies a little bit higher rank if you're looking at students who maybe have a white belt and 2 yellow stripes. That's as you're advancing to the next belt level. You would look at them as a senior, and you could understand that maybe that would be someone that you would want to also learn from or use it as an example as you're learning. So white belt goes to yellow belt, goes to orange, and then green, blue, purple, brown. There's several levels of brown belt. Some Shotokan Karate programs will throw a red belt in there instead of the brown, or to break up some of the brown. Because you have a brown belt with a white stripe, then you have a just plain brown belt, and then you have a brown belt with a black stripe, then you get your black belt. That would be your Shodan, your black belt, and then Nidan is your 2nd degree black belt. But Nidan requires a couple of other things. It requires that you have taught. It requires that you have also had at least 2 years of holding your Shodan black belt before you can even apply for your exam for your 2nd degree black belt. And then there's some other things that obviously go along with that, but within that 2-year period that you're extending from Shodan to Nidan. To move from Nidan to Sandan, which would be a 3rd degree black belt, there's a 3-year period, and within that 3 years, which is what I'm working towards now, there are several things that I have to complete within that 3 years in order to even apply for my 3rd degree black belt. All of that said, the belt that I'm wearing is my black belt. This is typically, you would call this an OB, OBI, and you're not tied in the center, right below your belly button. So this is about, I would say, 2 inches below my belly button is where the belt sits. It goes around my hips, And this is a reminder that everything comes from the center. So anytime you're doing a lot of movement, blocks, punches, kicks, anything like that, you're reminded where your center is. So your center would always be here, and you can always look down at your knot in your belt to understand where your center is and be reminded of it. And that's the reason that we wear belts. Traditionally in Shotokan karate, you wouldn't wear belts. It wasn't a thing. You would always wear a white belt. Everyone wore a white belt until you became an instructor, which at that point you wore a black belt. So the Americanized version of Shotokan karate, which is a traditional Okinawan style of martial art, we've Americanized it and we've added belt colors to signify, moving up through the ranks. It's just something that we as Americans tend to do, is to add achievement of some sort, and that's what has been done here. So, but that's typically what this is for, and a lot of styles wouldn't even wear belts. Again, because you're not training for a belt. A lot of Americans now look at it and say, well, I want to earn this belt. I want to earn my green belt, my blue belt, my orange belt. Traditionally in Japan, whenever they were originally teaching Okinawan karate, that wasn't a thing. You were just learning to learn and learning from a master who was willing to teach you, and therefore you didn't care anything about color belts. It wasn't even a thing. So we've definitely Americanized Shotokan karate, and that's kind of the way that I teach it as well. So that's as much as I really want to get into as far as the gi and the belt are concerned. There's specific ways that we tie the belt, and there's reasons behind why we tie the belt the way we tie our belt. But as I said, I don't want to get too deep into that unless you were to become one of my students outside of this Shotokan Karate Studies program. So again, today, as I mentioned, we're going to go through a stance. So we're going to learn a front stance today, which is Zen Kudusudachi, or Zen Kutsudachi. And I'll put that down here so you can see what that word looks like. That's Japanese for front stance. Dachi means stance. Zenkutsu is a front stance. All right, so that's what we're learning today. Front stance, typically you're standing in a ready stance. So this would be a Shizentai stance. So you're standing in a ready stance. This is just your normal standing platform, right? So your feet are typically directly under your shoulders, shoulder width apart. There's no angle specifically to your feet. You're not pointing them directly forward. They're not way far out. It's just your typical stance, all right? If you were just to stand up, take a few steps forward, take a few steps back, where your feet land underneath your body to support your body weight. This is Shizentai. This is a ready stance. To step out into Zenkudusudachi, or your front stance, we're going to step out in a left Zenkudusudachi, which means we're going to step out with our left foot. So you would take that left foot and move it out just like this. Most of your weight is going to be transferred forward, which is why it is a front stance. Now some people will tell you, and they'll break this down and say, well, 70% of your weight should be forward and 30% of your weight should be back. If you can do that math in your head and you understand exactly your body weight, great. I don't know many people that are able to say 70% of my body weight is forward and only 30% of my body weight is back. That feels like it's impossible. All right. But that said, that's typically what you're going for. Your body's still facing forward. All right. So this would be what we call shomen, where your body is facing toward your opponent. Hanmi would be your body facing away or to the side at an angle. So this would be a Hanmi stance. This would be shomen. Your body is facing toward your opponent or toward the direction that you're walking. So again, this is your Zenkudusudachi stance. My body is upright, all right? I'm not leaning forward and I'm not leaning backward. Your body really doesn't change its angle. So even from here, as I said, in this ready stance, if I just take my step forward, you can see that my body doesn't lean to make that step happen or make that transition to that front stance. It stays upright the entire time. So here, I'm in shonen, my body is facing this direction, and I'm just taking that step forward. Okay, and that's what the stance should look like. As far as your feet are concerned, all right, your front foot and the knee bend, your knee, you should just be able to see your big toe. Just, if you look straight down from your knee, you should just be able to see your big toe. That's how far forward your knee and your foot should be. That's how you know you're in a proper stance. Your back foot should be facing as far forward as it can go. Some people have ankle issues. Some people have knee issues as you're torquing and twisting this leg. But typically, it shouldn't be going straight in this direction. It should be, as much as possible, going forward. So you're on your heel, and and the front of your foot there is you're moving in this direction. This foot, your front foot, should also be, the outside edge should be going straight towards your opponent. Again, it almost looks like your foot, instead of doing this, is doing this. But it's really because your foot has that curve on the outer edge, and you want that outer edge to be straight. All right, so again, this would be a good front stance. You can kind of see it look like my toe is almost pointed in this direction, okay? But the outside edge of my foot is flat. And that's what we're going for in a front stance, or your Zengoku Sadachi stance. So again, this is your stance. And again, widen your stance until you feel comfortable and until you feel like you're in a Shomen position where your body is facing forward. This would be your typical Zengoku Sadachi stance, or your front stance, okay? So from here, you typically learn how to walk or how to move in this stance. Now, before we do that, let's try it a couple times back and forth. So that would be your front stance as you step forward and come back. And now try the other side. So now place your right foot forward. Again, same thing. Your knee just over your toe. I can see my big toe right here. I'm not leaning forward. My body is still upright, in an upright position. Still in a Shomen position with my body. I'm facing towards my opponent. Even though my belt is off in this direction, you can only turn your body so much to be in this Shomen position. And if you feel like it's not enough, you need to widen your stance. So you take your foot out a little bit further this way, and now you're in even more of a Shomen stance, so your body is facing forward. So typically, this happens with beginners. They get very linear, or they try to line their feet up, and it always looks like they're in a Han-Mi position because their body is facing this direction. And we want it to be facing this direction. So instead of twisting your hip or driving down your hip, you just want to widen that stance. Now you're in a good Shomen position for this front stance. All right, and again, I'll show you from the side. So we're standing here in a Shizentai or ready position. You're stepping forward with your right foot this time. So again, my foot, or my big toe, just beyond my knee. I can barely see my big toe. My body, again, widen your stance if you need to, in a Shomen position so that your body is facing forward, just like this. And then you want to come back up. All right, so now that you kind of understand how that works, again, the body's in an upright position, your back leg is straight, knee is still slightly bent. So if I'm here, this knee, you can see I'm not locked out. It's not completely locked. It has to bend some, or your body is going to go forward, right? Because your glutes are now pointing backwards. Your body has no place to go but forward. So you have to kind of sit into it. Okay. This knee is slightly bent. My body is upright here. Okay, I'm vertical. And then, as I said, my Shomen, my body, my belt, I'm facing towards my opponent, or I'm facing the direction that I'm walking. This would be a good left Zengoku Sadachi front stance in Shomen. Okay, so let's do that a couple of times. What I would typically recommend you do at this point is just pause the video and try that. All right, pause the video with me in the Zengoku Sadachi front stance where you can see it and where you can refer to it, and then try it on your own several times. So, like I said, even though we only have about an hour in each video, I would like for you to be able to stop and pause the video and say, all right, I'm going to work on that for 5 minutes. I'm going to work on that for 3 to 5 minutes. Each one of these things that we're going through, pause the video, work on each thing for 3 to 5 minutes, come back to the video and pick right up where you left off. All right. So now we're going to learn how to kind of walk in that position, right? Because that's obviously how we move in karate, is you're walking backwards and you're walking forward. Now, I'll step back, and you want to make sure you have room to do at least, I would say, 3 to 4 steps, walking forward, and then we're going to walk backwards. But then I'm also going to introduce a turn so that you understand how to turn in that position, so you're not just always walking straight forward and always walking straight back. we're going to learn how to turn. All right. So right now we're just concentrating on walking forward. So you're in your shizentai, or your ready position. Hands should be typically in front, fists are right here in front of your body. They were to come back, they would land directly on the belt, hanging off to the side of your gi, just like this, but off of your gi. So not resting on your gi, but holding off with a little bit of space out in front, like this. All right, so this would be a ready position. So now we're going to step out into Zengoku Sudachi, your front stance. All right, so you step with your left foot. You kind of, what you want to do is sweep your foot out. All right, it's almost as if you're cutting a half circle with your foot or with your toe as you step out into that stance. And again, we're facing forward in this shonen position. And now you're going to move forward. So now you're taking your rear leg, your right leg, and you're going to bring it up to your front. Your knees are bent. Again, very linear here. Don't bounce. Okay, so your head should be at the same level as it was here. All right. See, I'm not changing height. I'm here and here. Okay, here and here. The height of my head isn't changing. I'm not standing up and then stepping out again. Okay, the height doesn't change. So imagine that you have a very low ceiling and you're trying not to touch your head on that ceiling as you walk in this stance. So again, good stance. We're here. I'm going to take my right leg, bring it up to my left, and then I'm going to circle that leg out, and I'm still in my front stance, but now I'm in a right front stance. And now you're going to repeat that. So now we're going to bring that left leg forward to here and step it out. Keep your stance as wide as you need to so that you feel stable. You shouldn't do it so narrow that you're like trying to balance on a tightrope, and so that your body is starting to turn. Again, you want to keep that wide stance so that your body is facing forward still, and you're still able to move and have a stable base here. You should feel very stable in this position. All right, and continue to walk forward. So now we're taking our right leg up and back out. And again, remember, low ceiling, try not to bump your head every time you take a step. All right. So before we get into walking backwards, let's walk forward a few more times. And again, this is what I'm talking about. Pause the video. You've just seen me walk forward in front stance. You try it a few times. Try it several times. Work on this for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes until you feel like you're comfortable walking and moving in a front stance. We're going to do front again, and I'm going to walk forward directly to you. So again, we'll start here in Shizentai, and we're going to step out into Zengoku Sudachi, your front stance, a left front stance, and begin. Just like that. All right, so let's come back here to Shizentai. So hajime is a Japanese word that means begin. So typically you'll hear me say something like that if we're here in Shonen or we're here in Shizentai, and I'll say step out into a left Zengoku Sudachi. Hajime. That means begin. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Step out into a left Zengoku Sudachi front stance. Hajime. Good, just like that. So you're here, your body, you have a good wide stance, your body's facing forward, no height change as we move towards our opponent or we move in the direction that we're going. Ready? We're going to step with our right leg, bring it forward, and go into a right Zengoku Sudachi stance. Ready? Hajime. Good. And again. Good. And one more time. Very good. Back to Shizentai. All right. Try that a couple of times. Pause the video. Do it several times. I'm going to walk it one more time from the side so that you can see what it looks like from another angle. Again, for your reference, pause the video. Walk it just like I'm walking it. Again, watch the height of my head. I'm not bobbing up and down as I'm walking. That's what you want to avoid. So let's do this again. We're standing here in Shizentai. Make sure you have room to do 3 to 4 steps. Stepping out into a left Zengaku Sudachi, front stance, Hajime. Alright, at this point you're probably wondering what you want to do with your hands because we're not stepping into a block and we're not stepping into a punch. So it's perfectly normal to just put your hands on your hips just like this. And it also helps you to feel your hips. So you can feel what's happening with your hips. Alright, so now we're going to step with our right foot into a right Zengaku Sudachi stance and Hajime. And left. And right again. And Yame. Yame means to stop. So Hajime is begin, Yame is stop. Learning Japanese as we go through the class, right? Alright, so again, pause the video there or rewind it a few times and watch me go through and walk in that Zengaku Sudachi, that front stance. It's a very linear movement. Again, no height changes as you're moving through that stance. That's what you're going for. That's what I want you to practice. Do it several times until you feel comfortable. So that's kind of the beauty of this program, all right? You're not in a dojo with 20 other students of various levels who are maybe going faster than you. Maybe they're going slower than you. Maybe you're picking this up. As soon as I'm putting it down, you get it, you've got it, you're locked in, you're ready to go ahead. But other students aren't, and they're taking more time. Other students are well advanced, like I already know how to do this. Why are we wasting our time with this, right? That's the beauty of this program, where you can make that decision to say, I need to watch this 50 more times, or I've got this, or I need to watch it maybe 2 or 3 more times, now I've got it. All right, so again, pause, rewind, watch it again, practice this, go through it several times until you feel comfortable walking and moving in Zengaku Sudachi in this front stance, okay? So the next thing we're gonna do is learn how to step back. So instead of walking forward and turning, we're going to step back. Obviously in martial arts and in karate in particular, you're going to step back a lot if you're defending or blocking. Kicks are coming your way, punches are coming your way. You're not walking forward into them, but you're stepping back to defend against them. So we're going to start here in Shizentai again. And we're going to step back into Zengaku Sudachi, into a left front stance. So because we're stepping into a left front stance and we're stepping back, we need to move our right leg. So you're here, and you're going to take that left leg, and I want you to feel as though you're driving your heel through a piece of drywall. Maybe that's right behind your foot, or maybe that's right behind you, probably 3 feet behind you. I want you to drive that heel through that piece of drywall. So you're here, and we're going to step back hard. Drive that foot back. This is a key point. Don't, as you're walking backwards, the thing that you don't want to do is stand up. All right? Just as we talked about walking forward, you don't want to stand up, or you don't want to give away movement with your feet, that you're making moves. So going back to front stance, as we're here and we're walking in that Zengaku Sudachi in that front stance, this is something I bet you're doing and you don't realize you're doing it. Step into your front stance with your left foot. So here. All right, now take another step. Before you do that, watch this foot. What I want to make sure you're doing is you're not telegraphing, or you're not moving this foot. So typically what would happen is students will say, or not, they won't say, but before they move, they do this. And then they step. And they do that again with this foot. And then they step. All right, why are they doing that? What they typically are doing is they're preparing their front foot to be their back foot for the stance, right? Because what happens with that rear foot is it turns out a little bit, right? We talked about how your rear foot should be slightly turned out. That's exactly what's happening here. Your foot is here, and in order for this foot to now become your back foot, it has to turn out, and that's what's happening. So the foot will turn out slightly, like this, and then go out. This foot will turn out slightly, like this. All right, so if you're doing that, try to stop this from happening. Try early, as early as you can, because I have a lot of students that are well advanced in rank and well advanced in their belt level, and they still turn that front foot out, and it's called telegraphing. So basically, if we were standing up, lining up for a kumite, and we were in a front stance, and he or she turns their foot out slightly, like that, I know instantly they're making a move to come towards me. They're stepping forward because there's no other reason to do that, right? So try to avoid that as much as possible. Transfer your weight by leaning forward. Okay, so I'm in a good front stance here. We're in Shomen. I'm leaning forward into this. I'm transitioning my weight to be able to move forward. So leaning in, and there's my front stance. Okay, again, leaning in to this foot, front stance. All right, don't telegraph by wobbling your feet or by making that initial shift before you've even moved. Okay, so let's get back to moving in reverse. Should be a very powerful move. Again, as you're walking, it can be just as smooth, I guess, as you walk forward. You can walk backwards the same way, but it still should be a driving mechanism to move backward quickly. Again, as we said before, you are defending typically. If you're walking backwards, you're defending. And you don't do that slowly, you do that with purpose, and you move backwards with a purpose. So that's what we're looking for here. So, again, we're standing here and we're in Shizentai, and we're gonna take our right foot and step back into a left Zenkutu Sudachi front stance. So, drive that foot back, okay? Try not to lean forward like I just did, and try to work on just transitioning the weight. So again, just like I talked about telegraphing, a lot of people will lift or they'll kind of push off, like push with their front foot to try to move into that front stance. When they move backward, don't push. Transfer your weight. What does that mean? You're gonna have to bend your rear leg, right? So you're here, we're in a good front stance. Don't push and lift up your back foot. Okay, a lot of people do that as well. They'll lift up their back foot to make that transition. Remember, low ceiling. Don't bump your head. So what do? We're going to lean into our heel and drop this hip. Okay, so drop it, push here, but don't lift. Push. Now you're in your front stance again. All right, again, height, no height change. You're leaning, you're just transferring your weight from front to back as you get back into that back stance, or that front stance, but moving backward. So you take a step forward here, and then you transfer your weight, step back, driving that foot back as you move. All right, I know we're beginners, so I don't want you to, I talked about driving that foot backward, like you're pushing it through a piece of drywall. As a beginner, I think really you should concentrate on just being able to transition to move back. All right, so don't worry too much about that driving that foot back. You'll get there eventually. Right now, let's just worry about moving backward. All right, so I'm gonna stand right here in front of you and we're gonna do that together. And then I want you to, again, pause the video and try this several times on your own. All right, so here we are. We're in our Shizentai, our ready stance. Let's step back into a left Zenkutu Sudachi front stance, which means we're moving our right leg. All right, and Hajime. Front stance. Watch the height of your head. We're gonna step back with our left foot. So, pull your weight. Transition. Okay, again, good wide stance. Body is in Shonen. I'm facing my opponent. I'm facing the direction that I'm moving. Even though I'm moving back, my body is facing, again, that direction. It's flat. It's not turned this way. So turn your body this way by pushing, driving with your heel, pushing that, dropping your hip here. All right. So here we go. We're going to move back one more time. Another step. So transition the weight. Make your feet proper, right? Turn them as needed. Still in this front stance, no height change. All right, and yame, and back up. Very good. All right, so that's moving and walking in Zengaku Sudachi. Let's go back again. So this time I'm going to walk forward and backward. And again, take your time here. Pause the video after you see me do this and try it for yourself several times. Work on this 3 to 5 minutes until you feel like you have it down before you want to move on to something else. And again, the good thing about having these videos, you can watch this video 10 times if you want until you feel very comfortable walking in this stance in particular before we move on to something else, to another subject. All right, so I'm going to start on this side. We're in our Shizentai, our ready stance. We're going to walk forward. Let's do 3 steps. We're going to walk forward in Zengaku Sudachi. We're going to start with a left Zengaku Sudachi front stance and Hajime. There's 1, or Ichi. And now 2, or Ni. And 3, that's San. All right, so now we're gonna walk backward. So, transition your weight. Ichi. Ni. And San. And yame. Very good. So, you've now seen me walk forward and backward in Zengaku Sudachi, our front stance. I hope that you understand how that works. Pause the video, think about that several times. I'll kind of give you a little bit more insight. As I said at the very beginning of this, the front stance, people will typically say 70% of your body weight is forward and 30% of it is back, and how difficult that is to gauge. All right, so let's look at it another way, potentially, okay? Good wide Zengaku Sudachi front stance. All right, if I were to measure the distance between my toe and my heel, I'm not sure what that would be exactly, but let's just pretend that it is 100 centimeters, okay, from there to there. And I took my obi, which we've referred to before as something that you're always going to use to measure where you're pointing, where you're driving from, things like that. So my center, and you just dropped a straight line down to here. Okay, the difference between here and here is 70, and here is 30. So again, from the heel to toe, if I were to measure, 70 centimeters would be from here back, and 30 would be from here forward. So that's another way that you can typically measure this. Again, it's really based on weight because you are shifting your weight forward. Your weight is more in a forward position, so 70-30. But you can flip that if you were to measure it and say my center is here, 70-30 distance, because my weight is shifted forward. Again, it's just another way potentially that you can kind of look at this, because everyone's stance is going to be different. Even though that mine may look long or linear, yours may be shorter. You may not have the flexibility. So your front stance may be this, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with a short front stance. Okay, your weight is still forward. You still have more weight forward than you do back. So your percentage should be about 70-30 still. But I'm just not down long and lean. Some of you may have a very long and lean stance, maybe deeper than this, where you're really low, okay? And that's perfectly fine if you're able to move in this position and feel comfortable moving in such a low, linear style of front stance. It's perfectly fine, all right? But typically you're going to be here, maybe here, somewhere in between. Definitely not standing up, so this is definitely not a front stance. This would be something else, maybe a Renozadachi stance, but we're not there yet. So again, you should still typically have somewhat of a good fighting stance, so that if you were here in Shizentai and you were put into a fighting situation, this is going to be a little bit more typical of what you would do, as opposed to stepping out and getting prepared like this, like you're getting, into a karate stance, a Zengaku Sudachi stance, right? That you don't see that happening very often, but you do see a weight shift. So if you were here and you felt threatened, you are going to step out into a position that you feel that you're ready to absorb or move forward as far as attacks or defenses, right? So this would be a front stance, all right? So that said, again, pause the video, watch that a few times, kind of go through it and understand what it took to get you there, what it takes to continue to move forward and backward in that Zengato Sudachi, in that front stance, because it is important. It is a foundation that we're building here as martial artists, as a Shotokan karate student. This is the basis, okay? This is the bottom of the pyramid, all right? We're not getting up to the top yet. We're down here building that stable base, and this is a very key point in building that stable base. So the next thing you obviously want to learn is punching. A key component to Shotokan karate. There's not a lot of movement as far as Shotokan karate is concerned. You're not doing special punches or special blocks, or there's not. Everything's pretty basic, okay, and everything works off of a very basic movement and a very basic, simple kihon technique. All right, so when you make your fist, all right, you're making a seiken fist. So you're punching with the first two knuckles, your index and your middle finger knuckles. Those are the knuckles that you want to make impact with, and there's several reasons for that. Typically, these bones are well supported, right? If you were to look down and see these two bones, they're well supported as they go back into your arm. These are not. They come off. There's not much there. All right. You can actually have what they call a boxer's break, or boxers will typically, because of the way they punch, this finger typically will break going this direction. It'll break here, and the break will be right in here. And that's because they're not punching properly, which is straight forward here. All right. So how do you make a fist? We know what we're punching with. We know what we want to make impact with, which are these two knuckles. What do we want to, how do you make a fist to get to this point? So it's basically you're curling your fingers, starting with your little finger, coming down, wrapping everything up, and then you just put your thumb right across there to tuck everything in. Do not ever put your thumb inside of your fist like this. As soon as you make impact with anything, you're going to break your thumb. That's going to be extremely painful. Make your fist, wrapping slowly here, and then tighten it up with your thumb at the bottom. As you make impact, so you're actually punching something, you're punching a bag or someone in the chest or something like that, your punch, when you make impact. Imagine you have like a little tube of toothpaste or peanut butter or like a ketchup packet, right, that you would buy. You just rip the end off of that ketchup packet and you put it in your hand so that the open end is facing out here, where your thumb is. You're going to make your fist, and as you make impact, you're just going to squeeze that peanut butter, squeeze that ketchup packet out, just like that. There's that little point of impact where you're squeezing from here to make that impact. Again, just me standing here and not moving anything, and just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze it out, okay? You can actually see the fist move forward slightly when you squeeze, 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 squeeze. All right, it's a squeeze and a release. So don't get caught up in being so tight, all right, whenever you move, and so compact, like a spring that hasn't sprung, all right? There should always be an impact and a relaxation of your body, okay? You prepare, you tighten at the point of impact, and you relax. You prepare, you tighten at the point of impact, and relax. There should never be that constant tension, right? When you look at a spring, it's not under constant tension. It doesn't work that way. You have to squeeze it and release it, squeeze it and release it in order for it to do what it's built to do. Same thing with your body, same thing with Shotokan karate. As you make that fist and you move to punch, it's squeeze and release. Make the impact and release and relax. All right, so that's kind of what we're looking for here. So again, pause the video, look at your hands when you make that fist. Your hands are coming together. A good squeeze, thumb comes underneath. You know you're gonna make impact with these two knuckles. The front two, your index finger and your middle finger, are those knuckles that you're making impact with. And always punch to the center. So if you're looking to make a punch, it's not out here to the side of your body, it's directly here, directly in front of your sternum. That's your punch height for a Chudan level punch. So Chudan or chest level punch. All right, Jodan would be high, would be up towards the face, the mouth, the nose, and so this is Chudan, and this would be Jodan. Gadan would be low, so like the stomach area. Okay, that would be Gadan, Chudan, Jodan. All right, so those are the three levels that you're looking to punch. And typically, again, as a beginner, you're going to always do Chudan level punches. That's what we're working for, is just a Chudan level punch. All right, so that's what we're going to focus on now, is that punch. So we're going to stand here in our Shizentai, in our ready stance, and we're going to work on that punch. How does it work? What's the functionality of this punch from beginning to end? How does it work? So we're going to stand here and we're going to take our hands into what we call hikite. Hikite is your hands being just above your belt. So you know where your belt is, on your waist. You can look at me and see, this is my pelvis is right here. These are the bones of my pelvis right here, my hips. So you can see where my belt sits, directly on that. Again, something that you think about whenever you're wearing your belt is where you are wearing the belt. The location of the belt as it sits on your body. The knot is the center. Where the belt sits is your hips. So again, this gives you focus points. Hikite hand should come back just above the belt, just above your hip. So that's what we're doing here. Your hikite hand is back. Your other hand you can use to mark your target, or have your hand out in front so you know where this other hand is going. And then you punch. And then you punch. All right, and I know you're sitting here going, well, you didn't tell me anything about it, right? So how do you punch? All right, so you mark your target, your hand is out in front. We're still in a Shizentai, slightly larger than Shizentai, so you want your feet to be a little bit further than shoulder width, just barely wider than shoulder width, just to have a good, strong stance as we stand here. Marking your target with your left hand, your right hand down at hikite. You made your fist. It's still in that same position that we made our fist earlier. And as you come up, it's almost like you're dropping. So let gravity do what it does. Here's your fist, and I want you to breathe out. And just let your shoulder drop. So don't be so tense. So again, you're here, breathe in, let your shoulder drop. Let that fist drop, let gravity do what it's going to do. Feel the drop of your arm and your hand here. After it drops, continue to bring it forward, forward, forward. Turning at the last second, making impact again directly in front of your chest as you swing your hip and bring that fist forward. All right, that's a lot to take in, right? Just for a simple punch. But that's what you're doing. So again, your hand here at hikite, your other hand here to mark your target. Breath in, exhale, let it drop, bring it forward, drive with your hip, make impact. Notice my feet are not moving, but my hips are driving. I want your hips to drive that punch, okay? There's a lot of movement here in your hips as you stand in this without moving your feet. There's a lot of hip movement that can be done. And your hips are going to drive all of this movement. So you're here, you marked your target, inhale, exhale, drop, driving forward again. Drive that hip forward, making impact again directly, what would be in front of your chest, but you've turned slightly, and then come back. So turn and come back. All right, it's what we call a vibration. So I'll do this a couple of times just so you can see what it looks like, but you should see just a little bit of this. And you can try that. Stand there and do that with me as you just shift back and forth. Shift, shift. All right, that's what you're doing. You're driving and then coming back to center. Drive that hip, come back to center. Drive that punch, come back to center. And relax. So I'll do this several times. I'll do this maybe 5 times so you can see what it looks like. So you're here. and you can hear my breath. You can physically hear my breath, that exhale. Drop, make impact, you're back. All right, you twisted, you came back. Drop, twist, make impact, come back. Drop, and come back. Drop, drive, come back. Drop, drive, come back. That's exactly what you're doing with your Chokozuki front punch. All right, so we're not moving into an Oizuki punch. An Oizuki punch would be you're actually moving forward with a front punch in Zenkutu Sudachi. So as that front leg comes forward, the punch is driven at the same time. That is a Oizuki or a front punch. We're not there, all right? We just learned Zenkutu Sudachi. So you just learned that front stance. You just learned how to walk forward and backward. Now you're just standing here in Shizentai and we're punching. This is a Chokozuki punch. It's just standing in one place and punching. This is not a shoulder movement, so I don't want you to get confused with that and think I'm punching with the strength in my arms and my shoulders. You're punching with your hips. The punch is here. Watch the vibration again with your hips. Try it. Stand there. You know, if you've got the coffee maker going and you're standing there waiting for that coffee, just try it. Just try that hip vibration. It's not a big deal to stand there and just practice these things, you know, going through everyday activities. You're standing there in front of the fridge, figuring out what you're gonna have, and just drive that, right? It's something that you can easily do and pick up on throughout the day until you really mastered what it feels like to do this. So I'll turn to the side, and I'm gonna do this a few more times. Feet slightly wider than shoulder width. Marking your target with your left hand, your right hand is down by your side at Hikite, and I want you to drive that punch. Ich, ni, san, shi, go, ro, sich, hat, kyu, ju, ish, and yame. All right, very good. Hopefully, at that point, you felt very karate. Hopefully, you felt like a karate student. That's what we're going for. That's what this studies program is all about, is really getting you to the point of understanding Shotokan karate, what it is, what it means, how it works, the functionality of it, how to become a beginning student. Again, we're going to have several classes through the week, so you're going to have these beginner classes, intermediate classes, and advanced classes. So regardless of when you decided to start this program, you can pick up and say, oh, the beginner classes are too easy. I know all that stuff. I'm going to go to the intermediate class. Same thing. I know this intermediate stuff. I'm going to go to these more higher advanced classes where we start learning a lot more kata and things like that, which go along with the whole point of Shotokan karate. When you're learning Shotokan karate, there's three elements, which is Kihon, Kata, and Kumite. Kihon are the techniques. That's what we're looking at now. We're learning how to stand in specific stances and move. We're learning how to punch. We're learning how to block. Each one of those things is called Kihon. That's technique. Kata is putting those techniques together. Kata is sort of a dance or an imaginary fight, where you're taking those Kihon techniques that you've learned and you're putting them into a kata so you understand how those techniques would be used in a fight. Kumite is the fight. So I know that with these video classes that you're probably not going to have a partner. Maybe you will, and that would be fantastic, where you and a partner can kind of work together and come together and say, hey, let's do karate today. Pop on one of these videos, go through it together. At some point, we're going to start getting into Kumite, where you'll learn how to attack and defend. And that's all part of learning karate. So again, you start to put your kata that you've learned into practice with Kumite. You can also look at the bunkai. That is actual application of kata. So again, all these things come together. That Kihon are your techniques that you learned in order to perform kata, that you learn in order to fight or spar or actually practically use the Kihon techniques that you're learning. All right, so that said, again, pause the video. Practice that Chokozuki punch several times before you move forward to something else. All right, again, just remember that how to make that fist, that Seiken fist. Remember that every punch, it is you're squeezing that peanut butter, All right, you're squeezing that tube of toothpaste, making a squirt out over here. With this fist, you're making a squirt out over in this direction. You're squeezing that ketchup packet, making it just pop and go out that over there. All right, as you come up, exhale. And do it, right? When you saw me do it, you physically heard me with each punch and exhale. All right, so do that. Remember the hip vibration. When you're driving that right punch, it's a vibration that comes here and back to center. Left punch, it comes here and back to center. Okay, drive, return. Drive, return. Drive, return. Okay, remember that hip vibration and do it slowly. I don't want you to go as fast as I just did that. All right, do this slowly. So if you were to do this and practice at home, you can do this slowly with 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, do it slowly. I don't expect you to come out of class 1, beginner level 1, and throw punches like I was just throwing them right there at the end. All right, do this at your own pace. Again, the beauty of this program is that you're able to rewind, pause, go back, and rewatch this several times until you're comfortable enough to move forward to the next thing. All right, so the only other thing I'm going to practice here, and I just want to kind of introduce, is a Gedan Barai. Gedan Barai is down block. All right, Gedan, as I already kind of discussed, this is Chudan level punch, Jodan level punch, Gedan level punch. Gedan is low block. All right, so Gedan Barai is a low block. This block, if you were to take your left hand, so we're here, in Shizentai. You're going to take your left hand and bring it up to your ears. As if you picked up an old school style phone receiver and you're putting it up to this ear to listen and talk, right? The top is here at your ear, the bottom is down here at your mouth, just like that. All right, you're defending, you're blocking your entire body here. Look at my elbows are together. These arms are in front of my body, a good block here, okay? Then this hand comes down and blocks off to the side. All right, so blocks in karate, blocks in Shotokan karate specifically, are not blocks so much as it is a redirection of force. Uke means to receive in Japanese, and a lot of what you're doing, so this is one of the rare blocks that is down block called Gedan Barai. It doesn't have the word uke in it, but your other blocks, like a rising block, which would be here, is called age uke. Shuto uke is a knife hand block. All right. There are several blocks that you're going to, like an inside out block, that everything is a redirection of force, right? To block something specifically, like a road block, is physically a concrete barrier that's in the middle of the road, right? You're not redirecting force, you're blocking the road. That's not what we're doing. So in martial arts and in karate, you're really receiving and redirecting. A Gedan Barai, down block, is meant to block a kick. So let's say that there's a front kick coming, okay? That kick is coming straight towards your body. I am simply blocking that off to the side, redirecting the force, number one, so that it doesn't make impact on my body, but number two, I'm not just standing here and standing here with my fist in front of it and saying, ha, I got you. You're just gonna kick my arm instead. I'm redirecting that off to the side, okay? Again, we're not gonna move our feet for this. We're gonna get there eventually, but I wanna introduce these three things, which is the stance, the punch, and a block. So, Gedan Barai is your low block. Feet just slightly wider than shoulder width again. Again, as you're here, you're going to bring elbow to elbow, pretty much. This hand up here, like I said, up to your ear. And then, like we talked about earlier, twisting that body off to the side. Feet don't move. Again, you're not twisting your feet out of the way at all. Chokazuki punch is here and here. Gedan Barai block is here. Blade your body, all right? So you're redirecting that force off to the side, because what you're doing is setting yourself up for a punch. So you blocked that kick, now you can punch. Block that kick, set up the punch. All right, so that's basically what this Gedan Barai is meant for. So again, here in Shizentai, hand comes up, block goes down off to the side. Your obi, your belt, the knot of your belt is facing in a hanmi position off to the side. Okay, you're here. All right, let's do that again. Here, here. All right, feet don't move. There is a shift. All right, in my body, I'm blading my body off to the side to redirect the force of that kick. And again, we come back and off to the side. Your hikite hand will always, again, land just above your belt and on your hip, off to the side. So the blocking hand is down. And again, up, blocking away and down. Up, block away and down. Okay? So try to get that hand high as you can. It's going to depend on your muscle mass across the top of your body here, how big your chest is. Maybe you can't get your hand all the way up to your ear. But that's the point that I'm trying to make, is it should go really high. The higher it can go, the more force you can come down with to sweep that leg away from your body. All right? If you're just doing this, there's not much power there, right? But there and there, there's a lot more power there. And I did move my feet right there at the end, but that's eventually where you're going to get to. So right here, again, just standing here, don't move your feet. Plant those feet as if they're nailed to the floor. They're not going to move. You're here and here, here and here. All right, I'll turn to the side just so you can see a little bit different of an angle. Feet, again, wider than shoulder width, just slightly. Here, here. And just like I said before, don't hold your breath. Each explosion of force and power is an exhale of your breath. You've taken a breath in. Breathe out. It helps with that explosion of power. It helps you release that energy. You're binding that energy up and releasing it on the way down. Binding it up, releasing it on the way down, okay? And again, the hikite hand will always pull back to your side. So it's up here, this is the hikite hand, it's going to pull to the side, all right? I've turned slightly sideways, maybe you can see this a little bit better. So if I'm here, all right, and we blocked here, this hikite hand, again, blocking, will pull up and to the side, all right? So now when you're blocking, this hand's going to go up over this one and down for the block. Your left hand is going to come up over and down for the block. All right. So the other hand, the hikite hand, will always be underneath the other hand as that block is coming down. Okay. Underneath, underneath, underneath. All right. So the hikite hand, the hand that's not blocking, will always go under the hand that is blocking. Okay, pause the video. Go through that several times. Go through that gerambarai down block. You're still making fists, all right? You're still doing that. It's not a bladed hand. It's not an open hand. You're still making a fist. You're hardening the side of this hand, or the side of your arm, as you twist from here, twist, and redirect that force. Again, up, down, twisting, twisting, until it's making impact and making that redirection of force off to the side for that kick. That kick is coming, you're blocking it. Kick is coming, you're blocking it. Imagine it. Look at it. Someone standing directly in front of you and they're throwing that front kick, blocking off to the side, blocking off to the side. All right? That's what we're going for. Those are your three first techniques that we're learning here with our Shotokan Karate Studies program. I very much appreciate you joining me. Leave some comments below. If you have questions, if there's specific things you want to learn, if you have any question about any specific technique that we've learned today, please put it down in the comments below. I'm more than happy to respond, answer whatever questions I can, take you in a direction that helps you learn as much as you want to learn about Shotokan Karate. I don't want to limit you in your ability to learn this martial art. I'm very passionate about teaching martial arts. I'm very passionate about Shotokan Karate in particular, and I want to be here for you. So again, let me know what feedback you have. Let me know what questions you have. And if you've taken martial arts or karate in the past, and this is too simple for you, look out for that intermediate class that's coming. Look out for that advanced class that's coming. Or if you're a beginner, start with these beginner classes. Take as many of these beginner classes as you want. Go through this for 3 months and then say, I'm ready for the intermediate class. Let's bump this up. Let's get moving to something a little bit higher. All right. Again, go through this class several times. Work through it a couple of times. The next beginner class, we're probably going to touch on those 3 things just to get started. So we're going to start with that Zintu Stachi front stance. We're going to start with that Chokozuki punch. We're going to start with that Geto Mirai down block. And then we're going to expand those into being able to move as you do them. And then we'll slowly introduce more and more blocks, more and more strikes, until we get to the point of introducing our first kata. And then you're going to probably want to bounce to the intermediate classes where you already know these techniques and you already have 1 kata under your belt, so to say, and you're going to start going from there. All right. So again, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you learned something, and I hope I've sparked an interest in you to want to learn more about Shotokan karate and maybe become a student. All right. I like to end my class by coming to an attention stance with my heels together, my feet at a 45-degree angle, my hands down to my side. I will bow, not losing eye contact, but still looking directly at you as I come back up. I'll step out into that Shizentai stance, and I'll typically say OSS, O-S-S, which just in karate means several things. Yes, I understand, hello, goodbye. It can mean several different things, but I'll typically start and end each class with that very same thing, OSS.